Welcome back to Dracula Daily, and welcome to this little double feature on this first day of August. We're going back on the Demeter, hoping they will soon make their way to England, and checking in with Mina again. So let's start. August 1st, Lock of the Demeter. 2 days of fog and not a sail sighted. Had hoped when in the English Channel to be able to signal for help or get in somewhere. Not having power to work sails, have to run before wind. Dare not lower, as could not raise them again. We seem to be drifting to some terrible doom. Made now more demoralized than either of man. His stronger nature seems to have worked inwardly against himself. Men are beyond fear, working stolidly and patiently, which minds made up to worst. There are Russian, he Romanian. Interesting last little sentence. Interesting to name their nationality. And to imply that our dear mate might know more. Just not speaking on it at that point. But let's continue. Let's continue this and switch over to Mina. Mina Murray's journal. I came up here an hour ago with Lucy, and we had a most interesting talk with my old friend and the two others who always come and join him. He is evidently the Sir Oracle of them, and I should think must have been in his time a most dictatorial person. He will not admit anything and downfaces everybody. If he can't out-argue them, he bullies them and then takes their silence for agreement with his views. Lucy was looking sweetly pretty in her white lawn frock. She has got a beautiful color since she has been here. I noticed that the old man did not lose any time in coming up and sitting near her when we sat down. She's so sweet with old people. I think they all fell in love with her on the spot. Even my old man succumbed and did not contradict her, but gave me double share instead. I got him on the subject of the legends, and he went off at once into a sort of sermon. I must try to remember it and put it down. It be all folk talk, lock, stock, and barrel. That's what it be, and not else. These Bannon wafts, and boongos, and barges, and bogles, and all named them, is only fit to set Barnes and dizzy woman a beldren. They be not but airblabs. They, and all crimes and signs and warnings, be all inverted by parsons and ilsome buke bodies and railway tutors to skeer and scunder halflings and to get folks to do something that they don't other incline to. It makes me ireful to think of them. Why it's them that, not content with printing lies on paper and preach them out to pulpits, does want to be cutting them on the tombstones. Look here all around you and whate'er you will. All them steens holding up their heads as well as they can out of their pride as they can, simply tumbling down with the weight of the lies wrote on them. Here lies the body, or sacred to the memory, wrote on all of them, and yet in nigh half of them there being no bodies at all, and the memory of them being cared a pitch of snuff about, much less sacred. Lies of all them, nothing but lies, one kind or another. My God, but I'll be queer scouterman. I'm so sorry that I'm stumbling through it. But I'll be a queer scouterman of the day of judgment when they come tumbling up in their death scars, all jabbed together and trying to drag their tombstones with them to prove how good they was. Some of them trembling and dithering, with their hands that doesn't and slippy from lying in the sea, that they can't even keep their group of them. Wow. I'm so sorry. Please go listen to the episode of Read Dracula, or read that part for yourself, because wow. I could see from the old fellow's self-satisfied air and the way in which he looked round for the approval of his cronies that he was showing off. And so I put in a word to keep him going. Oh, Mr. Swales, you can't be serious. Surely these tombstones are all not wrong. Jabbins. There may be poorish few not wrong saving where they make out the people too good, but there be folk that do thinking a palm bone be like a sea, if only it be their own. The whole thing be only lies. Now look you here. You come here a stranger, and you see this Kirkgoth. I nodded, for I thought it better to assent, though I did not quite understand his dialect. I knew it had something to do with the church. He went on, and you can't say that all those deans be a boon folk that happened here, snot and knock? I assented again. Then that be just where the lies comes in. Why there be scores of these laybats that be tomb of an old dun's box on Friday night? He nudged one of his companions and they all laughed. Oh my god, how could they be otherwise? Look at that one. The F's above the beer bank, read it. I went over and read. Edward Spensler, Master Mariner, murdered by pirates off the coast of Anders, April 1854. When I came back, Mr. Swales went on. Who brought him home, I wonder, to have him here? Murdered off the coast of Anders, and you constated his body lay under. Why, I could name you a dozen whose bones lie in the Greenland seas above. He pointed northwards, or where the currents may have drifted them. There may be the scenes around them. You can, with your young eyes, read the small print of the lies from here. This Braithwaite Lowry, I knew his father, lost in the lively of Greenland in 20s, or Andrew Woodhouse, drowned in the same seas in 1777, or John Paxton, drowned off Cape Farewell a year later, or old John Rawlings, whose grandfather sailed with me, drowned in the Gulf of Finland in 50s. Do you think that all these men will have to make a rush to Whitby when the trumpet sounds? I have me other rooms about it. I tell you that when they got here, they'd be jummelin' and jostin' one another that way that I'd be like a fight up on the ice in the old days, when be it one another from daylight to dark, and trying to tie up our own cuts by the light of the aurora borealis. This was evidently local pleasantries, for the old man cackled over it, and his cronies joined in with gusto. But, I said, surely you are not quite correct, for you start on the assumption that all the poor people, or their spirits, will have to take their tombstones with them on the Day of Judgment. Do you think that really will be necessary? Well, what else be they tombstones for? Answer me that, miss. To please their relatives, I suppose. To please their relatives, you suppose. This he said with intense scorn. How will it pleasure their relatives to know that lies it rode over them, and that everybody in the place knows that they'd be lies? He pointed to a stone at our feet, which had been laid down as a slab on which the seat was rested, close to the edge of the cliff. Read the lies on the Throfstin, he said. The letters were upside down to me from where I sat, but Lucy was more opposite to them, so she leaned over and read. Sacred to the memory of George Cannon, who died in the hope of a glorious resurrection on July 29th, 1873, falling from the rocks of Kettleness. The tomb was erected by his sorrowing mother to her beloved son. He was the only son of his mother, and she was a widow. Really, Mr. Swalds, I don't see anything funny with that. She spoke her comment very gravely and somewhat severely. Yeah, don't feel it funny, but that's because you don't go on to Sauron. Mother was a hellcat that hated him because he was a crude, a regular lamenter he was, and he hated her so much that he committed suicide in order that she might get an insurance she put on his life. He blew a night the top of his head off with an old musket that they for scarring the crows with. Thought for crows then, for it brought the clacks and the dopes with him. That's the way he fell off the rocks. And as to the hopes of a glorious resurrection, I often heard him say, Maisel, that he hoped he'd go to hell, for his mother was so pious that she'd be sure go to heaven, and he didn't want the ale where she was. Now, isn't that the Steen at any rate? He hammered it with his stick as he spoke. A pack of lies? And won't it make Gabriel cackle when Geordie comes panting up the grease with his tombstone balance on his arm and asked to be took as evidence? I did not know what to say, but Lucy turned the conversation as she said, rising up. Oh, why did you tell us of this? This is my favorite seat, and I cannot leave it, and now I find I must go on sitting over the grave of a suicide. That won't harm you, me pretty. And it may make poor Geordie glansome to have so trim as a lass sitting on his lap. That won't hurt you. Why, I've sat here often nor nigh 20 years past, and it hasn't done me no harm. Don't you fash about them as lies under ye, or that doesn't lie there either. It'll be time for ye to be getting scarred when you see the tombstones all running away with, and the place as bare as a stubble field. There's the clock and I must gang. My service to ye, ladies. And off he hobbled. Lucy and I sat a while, and it was so beautiful before us that we took hands as we sat, and she told me all over again about Arthur and their coming marriage. It made me just a little heartsick, for I haven't heard from Jonathan for a whole month. The same day. I came up here alone, for I am very sad. There was no letter for me. I hope there cannot be anything the matter with Jonathan. The clock has just struck 9. I see the lights scattered all over town, sometimes in rows where the streets are round, and sometimes singly. They run right up Esk and die away in the curve of the valley. To my left, the view is cut off by a black line of the roof where the old house next to the abbey. Sheep and lambs are bleating in the field away behind me, and there's a clatter of donkeys' hoofs up the paved road below. The band on the pier is playing a harsh waltz in good time, and further along the quater is Salvation. There is a Salvation Army meeting in a back street. Neither of the bands hear the other, but up here I see and hear them both. I wonder where Jonathan is, and if he's thinking of me. I wish he were here. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that I stumbled through that dialect so much. It is so hard to read. I apologize. I hope it was still half understandable that much as it was, but 1 month without word is a lot. Now that I think about it, it's very correct, actually. Well, will we ever find out what happened to Jonathan? Maybe, probably, but not today and not in the near future. But tomorrow we will return to the Demeter. Until then...